record. Okay. So before we start off and before I introduce our esteemed speaker, I would just like to share a few words about who we are, Breast Cancer Hub is, so that it becomes like those who do not know us, it's just an introduction about BCH. So our BCH is a Geister Platinum certified 2021 top rated 501c3 nonprofit. And our vision is save lives by awareness, volunteering, education, and research, and with the core ethics value of integrity and transparency. I'm the founder, Lopamudra Datroy. And for us in the US and everyone is all pro bono and voluntary. So we are so grateful that everything, any donations that we receive is derived towards our mission, which is we fight for breast cancer in women, men, and all genders. And we are also getting into the transgender community because I always feel that, there's that's another taboo that we are trying to break in. And we also have different cancer wings and through the BCH wings called Cancer Hub. And our mission is awareness, education, scientific seminars, and we develop the life-saving educational cards, screening cards, and research articles in layman terms and informational videos. And Fitz, for example, today your video will be counted as one of very impactful ones because it's going to help, it's going to be circulated globally. Now, our other mission, which is very important, is the population outreach. And we do a lot of community outreaches and cancer screening camps because we focus on early detection and prevention. But when we do that, we also, I give my number and email to everyone. So anyone with any suspicious cases, they reach out. So we navigate the cases towards the healthcare facilities and affordable options for the underprivileged and uninsured, so that with optimal follow-up, so that I know that everyone who reaches out is treated in the right direction. We have adopted 11 villages in India and we wanted to go deeper. We go to each household, each member. We maintain database for cancer screening. And once and it's not only restricted to screening, we take the suspicious cases, we collaborated with the local cancer hospital there, and then we take care end to end and we monitor and manage it in the patient individually, even with their treatment aid and all of the support. So our support group is very strong, and Uma ma'am, I know Priya and Anjali, they all are here who are from the support group, and which is a very private group. We do not, so that's why I think that's the trust we have built in, and we share our experiences. We have oncologists, we have nurse in the forum. So you can reach out to us if anyone needs help and guidance. And in addition to the scientific analysis, we also publish stories and interviews of the cancer advocates in the local languages, so that, and also in English and in local languages, because that's an inspiration for me. Our advocates, our survivors, our cancer patients are the heroes, and we stand for each other. So we have a patient treatment bucket, which aids for the underprivileged populace in poverty, especially in the developing countries. And with research, we are trying to bring the scenarios and data penetrating into the untapped sectors for the substantial impactful results. And our BCH research, cancer research, got approved by IRB USA and IAC India. So we are rigorously now working towards the epidemiological study, clinical data analysis. And we have this leadership programs because for me, the students, I feel that they are the next generation. So we have the ambassador program, intern program, so that they can spread the knowledge about early detection and also help them with their career growth. And our leaders, they are our community, leaders who create this, who are really, I'm so proud of them. I can't even tell you how the students are spread across the world and spreading the word about early detection. And our funding source is, of course, kind-hearted donors, that through their support we sustain, and without them we couldn't have sustained so far, adopting villagers and all of that, and everything, our financials is posted on the website under the donor button. So if anyone wants to see anything, they can look us up. So that's how we function. We function as we stand together against any discrimination of color, religion, language, and culture. We are a global family and we serve everyone with equality. So that's who we are, and we are grateful for our volunteers. Without each of us here, we couldn't have run this organization. And yes, and so saying that, I would like to welcome each of you here for I mean, we are so honored to have such an amazing personality who is Fitz Koehler, M.S.E.S.S. of Fitness.com. She is one of the most prominent and compelling fitness experts and race announcers in America. As the voice of the Los Angeles Marathon, Philadelphia Marathon, Big Sur Marathon, DC Wonder Woman Run Series, and more, she brings big structure, energy, and joy to sports. She is passionate about guiding others to live better and longer through her company, Fitzness. She has appeared on national media outlets and has worked as a spokesperson and speaker for corporations like Disney, Tropicana, Oakley, and Office Depot. Fitz has also inspired millions of kids to get active through her successful school running or walking program, The Morning Mile. Her memoir, My Noisy Cancer Comeback, was released in October 2020 and has become the to-go source of inspiration for thriving for surviving cancer. Fitz enjoys water sports, strength training, animals, hugs, sarcasm, and travel. She lives in Gainesville, Florida, with her husband and two kids. And to find Fitz, please follow her on her fitness on Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And thank you so much, Fitz, for connecting with me via LinkedIn. And to have a personality like you on our forum is a blessing for the BCH community and the BCH global family. Over to you, Fitz, and we can't wait to hear from you.
Well, thank you, Dr. Lopa. And I think you're the real hero in this Zoom room. The work you're doing is incredible. And I definitely feel so fortunate to be in a place where education is really accessible and information is at lightning speed. And, I did have great access. Once I found my own lump, I did have great access immediately to physicians, and the fact that you're supporting men and women around the world who just don't have the same access and you're saving their lives with it really matters. So thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course. So hello to everyone else. I am Fitz Koehler, and proud to be here. And of course, I'm part of this group. Nobody wants to be in the breast cancer club. Nobody wanted to join. We didn't send in resumes for this, but it's really wonderful to be on the survivor side of it now. And whew, it was a long haul, but very doable. And I think that I have some things to share. So as Lopa said, I have this book. It's called My Noisy Cancer Comeback. And I spent my life being a noisy person, a bossy person with fitness. I have a long history of, speaking the truth about exercise and eating wisely and steering people away from diets and pills and powders and the nonsense stuff that doesn't work, because I truly care about helping people live better and live longer. That's always been the top-notch part of my platform, is really length of life and quality of life. And I try to make fitness understandable, attainable, and fun, so everybody can get involved at their own pace and doing the things that they enjoy, eating the foods that they enjoy. Now, when it came to breast cancer, it was terrifying, right? Just like all of you who've been through it, it's absolutely terrifying and stressful, and it throws your life into spin cycle. In fact, when you hit that button on your washing machine and the clothes start to go, I felt like everything in my world started to spin around. But as I laser focused in and I kind of got a grip on what was happening, I was able to make some really good choices that helped me through my breast cancer treatment. And so I wanted to share some of those with you. I'll back up and tell you a little bit about my story. But I think, starting with the mental strength and the intellectual decision making really went a long way for me. And then the fact that I am a health and fitness expert gave me some really valuable tools to help me manage the things that I could control physically, and then really come out of the fog of treatment and surgery and radiation with a little bit of jet power, because I was smarter than the average cat who had breast cancer. So I'd like to share those things with you, whether you're going through it now, whether you go through it in the future, or you can help somebody else in this space in the world I'd like to. So uh, I can start by saying that I'm the girl who did everything right, right? Or almost everything right. I've never been perfect, but I always walk the walk. I ate wisely. I'm actually a vegetarian. And not that that's the only way to eat wisely, but that was my choice as a vegetarian eating plan. And I exercised almost every day, drink lots of water. I did all the right things. So, I'm exhibit A of if it can happen to me, it can happen to anybody. And I think that's important. So we all take this disease seriously and we keep an eye out on things. I also have spent 30 years as an advocate for annual exams and early detection. And I know with LOPA, that means everything, right? So I go to the doctors and I go to all my doctors every year. And I'm fortunate to be in a place to do that, but I get my eyes checked and I get my skin looked at. I'm Irish. So skin cancer is a reality that I may face and I have faced. But I get all of those annual exams, the pap smears and so forth, and the mammogram. And I encourage everybody else to, because I do believe early detection saves lives. So December of 2018, I went in for my annual mammogram. I had clean scans. There was nothing there. And I walked out with a clean bill of health. Hooray. I posted on Instagram and said, hey guys, just got my clean mammogram. Make sure you get yours. Less than 7 weeks later, I was at a hotel bathroom at a race weekend and I did this move right here. I came out of the shower naked and I had an itch. And there it was. I found it. It felt like a bean. And I knew exactly what it was right away. I mean, it just, I thought, oh God, there it is. I have breast cancer. And so, a real pivot point for me is I didn't pause to think about it. I didn't call my mom and cry. I didn't call my girlfriends and say, what do I do? I didn't Google it. Number one, I didn't Google it. I picked up the phone and I called my physician immediately and said, I found a lump and I need you to check this out. And so I was taking it very seriously, and so were they. And thank goodness I did, because it turns out I had a very aggressive, fast moving type of breast cancer. And if I had not acted quickly, perhaps you would be talking about me instead of to me. So again, less than 7 weeks later, I have this lump. A few days later, I'm in there, I get my doctor's appointment. A few days later, I have a mammogram, I have the ultrasound. And even though I knew that, I mean, deep down, I knew I had breast cancer, I didn't freak out yet. In fact, I didn't even tell my husband. I didn't tell anyone. I just decided I don't cry over milk that hasn't spilt yet. So I'm just going to be relaxed and reasonable until I have a reason to cry. And so in that ultrasound room, I could see the tumor as they were going over it. And I thought, well, maybe they could just remove this surgically. Maybe it won't be such a big deal. And then the radiologist said, we see this, this mass looks pretty concerning, but you also have 3 hard swollen lymph nodes we're really concerned about. And that's when the tears came and I realized, oh no, I'm not getting out of this easy. This is going to be a long road and a hard one at that. So next morning, punch biopsy. And again, that's one of the great gifts of the society I live in, is that we have incredible access. And I was able to quickly get to the doctors and get the scans and the tests I needed. And within 3 weeks of finding my lump, I started chemo. So my specific diagnosis was breast cancer stage 2B. I was HER2 positive, estrogen positive, and then apparently right on the border between progesterone positive and negative. So one doctor says, you qualify as positive. The other one says, no, you're negative. So I guess that doesn't matter because the treatment plan was the same. But my treatment that it varied. It changed halfway through, but I had 21 rounds of chemo every 3 weeks. I started off with the Taxotere, carboplatin, Perjeta, Herceptin combination, which was not a lot of fun. It's not my favorite medicines in the world. I'm very grateful for them because they did save my life, but holy mackerel, I did not enjoy them. So I had 6 rounds of that, and then I had 15 rounds of a drug called Kadcyla, or it looks like Godzilla, and I nicknamed it Godzilla. So we started off with the mean chemo, and then we went to Godzilla for the next 10 months. And that was a total of just over 15 months of chemo. I had 33 rounds of radiation, and I had a partial mastectomy. So just a lumpectomy. And I was very grateful for that. I know that, the full mastectomy is a very big deal, especially if you choose to reconstruct, and it leads to extra surgery. So while I really was hammered hard on the chemo side of thing, I do feel like I got off a little bit lucky with the surgery. And with breast cancer, any medical issue, it's never a competition, right? Nobody ever wants to have the worst or the easiest. You just face what you're particularly facing. And the reality is, whichever treatment plan you have, it's hard, it's scary. And we always hope that the next woman or even man has it as easy as possible. And I know right now we're raising funds for research to have more effective treatments, and I want that too. But what I want really is, I want a vaccine. I want nobody to have to face breast cancer, pancreatic cancer, brain cancer, whatever. I want the cancer vaccine. And I've leapt into that position mentally. That's where I'm hoping science and research and money goes, is get a vaccine. Let's just put an end to this nonsense. So, there I was with my fresh cancer diagnosis. I finally had to come clean to my husband and say, okay, can we meet for lunch? He's a police officer and he was working. So I said, can we meet for lunch? And he said, gosh, I knew something was wrong, but I had to sit there at the table with him and say, so I found a lump. It's breast cancer. That was hard. Telling my children, which I waited for I waited for the biopsy results to do, but telling them was very hard. I have two teenagers. My daughter was 15 at the time. My son was 13. He handled it quietly, and she sobbed. It's very hard to tell your children that you're facing a potentially lethal disease, even though I put the best spin on it. I said, bad news, good news. Bad news, I found a lump. Went to the doctor. Turns out I do have breast cancer. But the great news is breast cancer is really curable. At least 94% of the cancers are curable. My doctor told me that my type is particularly curable. So I'm going to be fine. I'm going to look kind of weird for a while. I'm going to feel kind of bad, but I will be okay. And she took it, Ginger is her name. Ginger took it the way you would imagine a little girl would take that kind of diagnosis for her mom. So lots of tears with her. My son was very quiet, although he apparently believed that I was definitely going to die. He told me after the fact, because I said, Parker, what did you think when I told you this a year ago? He said, oh, I definitely thought you were dying for sure. So, you do your best as a parent to deliver the information as thoughtfully and carefully and enthusiastically as possible. But they took it in their own ways. And so the next step I had to decide was how to manage my career. And the great news for me is that I love my profession dearly. And so I hope everyone else, if you work, that you have found work that you love so much as I do. Because one of the things I knew from the start is, no matter what cancer and its treatment were going to throw at me, I was not giving up my career. And the nuts and bolts of what I do is I speak for a living, but I normally do it in front of large, wonderful athletic audiences. So the largest running events in the United States, I host. So as tens of thousands of people gather, I'm there on a stage, on a microphone, playing fun music, greeting people, welcoming them to our event, telling them the things they need to know, plugging our sponsors, telling them information about the course, and just having fun. I entertain, and me and these 25,000 runners, we become best friends, and we have a great experience together. And I eventually whip them into a frenzy, get them going crazy, and then I yell, go, and they all take off and they leave, they go on their race, and then they come back. I'm waiting at the finish line, and I'm there to say, good job, Uma, good job, Lopa, good job, Priya. I have people's names, and I can welcome each one warmly. And so the work that I do is very coveted. There's a lot of people who would love to do it, but I've earned those stages, right? I'm the chosen one. I am that race announcer, and I love what I do. And what I knew is that if I gave up my races to sit home and be sick, I would get sicker. I knew that my heart would break and I would sit home all weekend crying and feeling bad. And I just decided that specifically was no good for my health. And it definitely wasn't good for my psyche. So knowing that I was going to go bald and be standing on all these stages, I decided that I had to make an announcement, right? I had to tell people if I showed up bald, they might ask some questions. And so there I was on video right here in this chair in this kitchen saying, I have breast cancer. But what I told the crew is that it's very curable. Mine's particularly curable. I'm going to be fine. However, I will not accept pity. I'm averse to pity, so don't feel bad for me. You can root for me, you can cheer for me, but no pity, no thank you. I might look weird, I'm going to feel weird, but I am going to show up at my events and I'm going to perform as expected and we'll get through this together. And I was a little naive when I sat here making that message. I didn't really know how things were going to go. I just had decided how I was going to react to it all. And yeah, that was the start of everything. So I'm going to share my screen for a little bit and let you see a little video so you get a peek at what it was like to go through my treatment. It's just in pictures, right? Where are we? Here we go. Can you see that, Lopa? Can you see
yes,
my?
Yes, okay. We can see that.
Okay. But I wanted to let you know, because I won't be able to avoid telling you at some point, is that I was just diagnosed with breast cancer. It's the morning of the LA Marathon. It's March 24th. And my hair is going to go very soon. It comes out when I brush it, like lots and lots of it. So I've been still going. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so that was a little imagery of my journey. And so it gives you the kind of fluffy outside and a glimpse at some of my experiences. But, you know, the reality was, as you know, if you've been through it, there's so much hardship that goes on behind the scenes. So I made some great choices from the get-go that helped me through it. It didn't fix the pain and the suffering, and it didn't take away the fear, but it allowed me to thrive while trying to survive. You know, I had all of these really dark moments. And then as you see through pictures, there were some really high points where, you know, I think so many regular healthy people don't choose those high points in their life, right? They just go through life without stepping outside the box, without pursuing adventure. They stay at a low level of, I can't, I shouldn't, I won't, where I go, I'm going to do this. Here I go, get out of my way. I want more. So the first thing, even though I was terrified, and again, even though I sobbed, I chose perspective. And so perspective has always been a very important part of who Fitz Koehler is. And, you know, instantly, even though I was terrified, I first thought back to one of my girlfriends my very good girlfriend, Charlene Malloy, who had recently passed away from pancreatic cancer. And that one, is a nightmare. That they really haven't made the same kind of progress with pancreatic cancer as they have with breast cancer. So as I was sitting in these exam rooms with the doctor who told me there was hope, I kept thinking about Charlene and the fact that she didn't have as much hope. There wasn't as much of a good prognosis. So I felt like I was in a better position and I should be grateful for that. I also, in Gainesville, Florida, here we have a very significant pediatric oncology uh, institute. And I was thinking, well, gosh, it would be so much worse if I were a little kid going through cancer. That would be the worst. So I'm going to be grateful for that. I was grateful that it wasn't my children going through cancer. And to me, that would be the way worse scenario. I'll take any of it. I'll take all of it as don't touch my kids. And then last but not least, I was grateful that, again, it wasn't pancreatic cancer. I was grateful I didn't get hit by a bus and killed in an instant. There's so many other worse things. So I just decided to keep perspective that this was going to be hard, but I can do hard things. And so perspective was number one. Number two is that from the start, I made a commitment that I was not giving up my passions, which were my children and my work. And so was I a super active, fun mom that year? No, not at all. But I didn't miss one of their sporting events. I didn't miss it when they performed in a play. I didn't miss graduation. I committed that I was going to make it to their marquee events. And I stuck to that. Now, backtracking, I wasn't able to cook them dinner anymore. The second I started chemo, I got so sick. I had some girlfriends who had gone through the drug nicknamed the Red Devil. And they said, yeah, I was a little bit tired. I was a little bit nauseous, but I never missed a day of work. And I thought, I can handle a little bit of tired and nausea. For me, chemo had much meaner side effects. So 3 days after my first chemo, my stomach exploded and I became violently ill every day for 5 full months. And that's a real wake-up call. That's one of those things where you can't just suck it up and be tough, and when you're sick, you're sick. And so the things that mattered to me most were my friends who drove my children to and from school, drove them to and from activities because I was no longer safe behind the wheel on many days. We had friends that brought meals. And I'm a person who takes meals. When you have a new baby or someone dies or you're sick, I am a meal bringer. It was very humbling to be a person that others were now feeding. Right? It was difficult, but I just decided, okay, at this point in my life, I'm going to swallow my pride and I'm going to accept the help. And then I will just make sure moving forward, I will dive back into helping others as aggressively as possible when I can. And so that's how I resolved to accept donations of food and a gift card here or there. People would call a restaurant and say, Fitz, what will your children eat? We're going to get it and deliver it. So the kindness from friends, from acquaintances, from strangers was a very, very, very big deal. So bouncing forward a little bit, as you saw in that one video, I lost a big chunk of my hair on stage at the finish line of the Los Angeles Marathon. And my hair just kept coming out and blowing everywhere. We're right by the ocean. And long blonde hair was everywhere. And I had a black stage we were standing on. And as you look down, there was just 2 feet of blonde hair just piled up. It was crazy. It was so crazy. But I had previously gone wig shopping. I thought, okay, I'm going to get some wigs and do my best. And I just decided that as we put on each wig, they felt uncomfortable and they made me sad. And I thought, you know what? I am sad enough that I'm not going to do this to myself. Will people look at me and think, boy, she looks kind of strange, bald? Perhaps, but I was okay with that. I decided that fighting for my life was nothing to be embarrassed about. And men don't hide their bald heads. So I was not going to hide my bald head. Was I going to walk out feeling beautiful and fantastic like I had previously? Probably not. But I'm okay with that. I decided that I'm a really good person and I try hard and I do great things through my work and as a mom. And so I wasn't going to choose a wig for myself. Now on the other side of that coin, I have some girlfriends who have worn tons of wigs through their treatment and they love them and they did feel beautiful and they felt fantastic and those wigs made them happy. So it's always your choice if you're going through this. And you shouldn't feel pressure by what society thinks or doesn't think when you are fighting for your life. And so the nice fallout of me being bald and not hiding my head is so many strangers were so kind because I was getting on planes every Friday morning. If you can imagine being chemo sick, I would get on a plane and my husband would drop me off at the airport and he would say, "How are you going to do this?" And I would just stare back and just say, I just will. I just will. I'm just going to do this. And so I would get on those planes. And because of my weird bald head, people were extra nice to me. And there's quite a few stories of stranger kindness in here and weird things that happen in airports because of me and the bald head. But what I found is, people are so kind and so caring and they could tell that I wasn't doing this as a fashion statement. I never wore a pink ribbon, not once. I still haven't. I never wore a t-shirt that said breast cancer warrior. I would dress in regular clothing and just show up with my bald head doing my thing. And people would reach out and say, "I'm rooting for you." Or they would pick up my luggage and put it on the little belt for me or get it down from the overhead compartment on a plane. So especially here in America, sometimes people say Americans are mean, or I don't know. I think we get a bad reputation. I beg to differ. I mean, I had such a good experience. The most kindest, gentlest group of humans on planet Earth were roaming around this country with me for a year and a half solid. And boy, did they step out of their box to take care of the bald girl. So I chose bald for myself. But again, it was my perspective. I allowed myself to cry, but I did not allow myself to have that why me moment. I never thought, why me? I just decided that this was a rogue cell. It was one rogue cell and we were going to kill it. We are going to kill all the rogue cells, but I wasn't targeted and I did not have room or reason for the pity party. Crying, yes. Stress, yes. Pity party, no. And I think that perspective, it can always be worse, went so far for me. Keeping my passions priceless. I would get on those planes sick. I would land across the country, maybe in New York or Buffalo or California or Washington State. And I would get off. My race directors would drive me directly to go get IV fluids. So we were still making medical efforts on the other side of the country, which required several other people to get involved to help me. And again, her heroes trying to arrange for the race announcer to get IV fluids elsewhere. But this is the magic of loving your work so much, is no matter how sick I was, even if I spent the night on the hotel bathroom because I was at the bathroom floor, I would get up and I would put on my clothes at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning when my alarm went off, and I would go to my stage. And the second I stepped on my stage, all of my sickness, most of my bad feelings would wash away. And I got to be almost full force Fitz Koehler again. I got to forget about all the yuck and the sadness and the scary in my life. And I got to be a race announcer. And I was able to serve my athletes. And so for me, it was my stages and my athletes and my events that made me feel really good. For other people, it may be, maybe you work as a veterinarian and you take care of animals. Maybe that is your calling. Maybe that's the thing that brings you out of the fog. And to me, I think it was so valuable that I did have those moments of clarity and distraction that allowed me to feel great. Because if I didn't choose that for myself, I would have spent all of the time feeling sick and suffering. And instead, I had moments of joy because I chose to pursue my passions. And so no matter who you are, no matter what you're going through, on your best day, you should always choose something for you that you love, whether it's a great book or it's a walk in the park or time with your pets or time with your kids or your parents, whatever it is. You got to choose to surround yourself with the good stuff that makes you happy. But those passions, those people, those things are going to become even more valuable when things hit the fan and life doesn't look so good, right? So for me, was kids and my profession. For you, you know, you got to choose that. And this is the other thing. Even if you're stuck in a hospital bed, even if you're that sick that you're hooked up to machines and whatever, you still should pursue your passions. And perhaps you can't be at a live soccer match, but you could watch one on television. If you can't be with your animals, you pull up all these cute, funny animal videos on the internet because they're there, or you FaceTime with the people you love. I think aggressively pursuing your passions make all the difference in the world because, you know, cancer's hard. Cancer is super hard. And while there was all those moments where you were seeing me in that video looking happy and running with people through their finish line, there was all those moments that I wouldn't allow my husband to photograph where I was sick on the floor or crying my eyes out in in an infusion room getting chemo, or the night I was hospitalized. I was hospitalized and needed a blood transfusion, and that was devastating to me. So being able to keep joy, force joy into my life meant all the difference. And I did hit despair. You know, at the end of my 6 rounds of the mean chemo, I had hit that very low where my doctor was concerned and he was offering me uh, stress drugs, anxiety medicine. And I said, no, thank you. Because I'm not about that. And I thought, well, I can keep going and get through this. But I did understand what it was like to be so low and so sick that I understood why people discontinue treatment. You know, for me, there was definitely a light at the end of the tunnel. I just had to keep going. And so I did. But if my doctor had said, listen, Fitz, we can't cure you, this is just going to get worse, I would have stopped chemo. So, you know, things were hard, things were sad, things were scary, but the forced agenda for me was an absolute lifesaver because the lows were really low, but my highs were really high. And it's not only because the work I do is kind of special. I think you can achieve those highs just whatever, doing whatever means wonderful things for you. And then the third thing that really got me through it was my choice to be positive. You know, cancer stinks, cancer's hard, cancer hurts, cancer's stressful, all of those stuff. But, you know, I have some friends who've been through it and they just chose to go dark days. Every day was dark. Every day was sad. And they played the role of being a sad person to the T. And that, again, I'm not faulting them for making that choice. But for me, if somebody said something funny, I chose to laugh. You know, yes, I had cancer. Yes, I was doing cancer care, but I was still a person with a sense of humor and a person who could enjoy a movie or a sporting event or whatever it was. So uh, perspective, passions, positivity went so far for me. And from what I've been told from the oncology medical practitioners that I deal with, is a lot of people sink their own ship with a bad attitude. You know, when they just choose to be miserable, you know, they choose no passions, they choose no positivity. Those are the people who die too quickly. Obviously, a really mean disease has an impact on that stuff too, but your mental game is going to really carry you through your treatment or not. And so what I say is allow your mental strength to be an asset to you. Let that be your sidekick. You know, with all the support, I still felt like the loneliest popular girl in the world. You know, it's really hard and I made those decisions and the decisions benefited me. So perspective, passion, positivity. The other thing that really helped me was a really sturdy mantra. And so for me, what I found myself doing, I didn't choose and I didn't say, okay, what's my mantra going to be? I'm going to find one and stick with it. But what happened was, as I was facing scary moment after scary moment, and as we know that if you're going to go through cancer care, you're going to constantly have to do things that scare you if you want to survive. And I'm super claustrophobic, for example. So anytime they had to do one of those scans, my anxiety was significant. I'm also terrified of needles, which is not so good with cancer because you get stuck all the time. And so I found myself, talking to myself. I was coaching myself up inside my head. And the thing I would do is I would remind myself all of the things I was capable of. I would say, Fitz, you used to be a competitive kickboxer. I used to fight in a ring. So I was telling myself that was really hard. You've built a big business. That's a really hard thing. You are raising great children. That's really hard. So you can do hard things. You can do this. And that seemed to always flow through my mind as I was stepping foot into the infusion room or into a scan or drawing blood, etc. So my mantra became, I can do hard things. And so here in the States, when people buy my book, I have these stickers, and that's a gift with purchase. Now, I think it probably, if you're going to get the book from India, it's probably going to be really big shipping if you order it from the States, but they have it on Amazon. But I can do hard things was my mantra. And so now I'm sharing it with others, because whether you're facing cancer or multiple sclerosis or I don't know, a broken leg. Life is hard, right? Life is inherently hard. It's also inherently wonderful, but nobody gets through it without having to push themselves, challenge themselves, conquer things that we never thought we could. And so for me, that mantra, I can do hard things, it just stayed there. And eventually I had said it enough that I had gotten to my final chemo and I got through it. So my cancer battle was definitely benefited from my physical health going in, but I think my mental strength and my decision making really enhanced my overall outcomes. Now, for those of you who are going to go through it, there's some other things you can do physically. First of all, going into any illness or injury healthy is going to make life a lot less complicated. So again, whether you break your leg or you get diagnosed with a mean illness, going into battle strong and fit is way better of an idea than going into anything weak and sickly already or overweight. So prepare your body to do battle today. If you are healthy and you're not facing any of these obstacles, prepare your body today. Work as hard as you can, eat as well as you can to become as fit and strong. So if you do face adversity, you'll be in a much better place to face it. However, if you do have cancer, you're facing that now, or something like that happens in your future, the rule of thumb is first, do no harm. Just like the doctor's credo that they will never do anything that causes harm to their patient. That's important for you to realize that exercise is important, but not if it's going to make you sick. And so I learned that pretty quickly when I started chemo, and that first weekend where I was just very, very sick. I thought getting up to go for a walk would be a good idea. And it was a very bad idea. I should have just been lying flat. But I didn't realize that. It took me a little bit to figure it out. And I actually was knocked out of exercising completely for about 4 months because of chemo. But then once I started getting the mean drugs out of my system, then I started to make progress. And this is a rule of thumb, is baby steps. You make progress in a teeny tiny way so you don't incur any setbacks. Because again, cancer is really hard. You don't want to make it any worse. And so for me, I started by just stretching in the shower. Not the big athletic races I used to do. I just started stretching in the shower. And then I started stretching in the pool. And then I started wiggling around in the pool. And then I started wiggling a little more in the pool. And eventually I started swimming. I also did basic things, walking to the mailbox and back, trying to walk around my block. I live on a hill, so I could walk down the hill, but then I couldn't get up the hill. So I actually had to call my husband one day and say, I'm at the bottom of the hill and I can't get up. Can you come pick me up in the car? And so there was these little triumphs, these little challenges and triumphs along the way that kept me moving. Strength was a really important thing. Strength is always a very important thing for every and any body. And so I started strength training gently. I went in, I did 10 exercises at a much lower weight than I used to use and built my way up from there. I never once had a setback because I pushed myself too hard. And I think that's really important for everybody to hear, is you don't have to be who you were right before you got diagnosed instantly. In fact, my attitude is I went through 16 months of cancer care. It's likely going to take me at least 16 months to rebound, if not more. And so I was still undergoing the Kadcyla chemo treatment for another 10 months post the mean chemo. But throughout that lesser chemo, I got back into exercise. I got back into the pool. I got back to walking and gradually built myself up. So I still had pitfalls. I lost a lot of weight. I lost a lot of muscle. Kadcyla, had its own havoc to wreak on my body, but I still pursued strength and flexibility, cardio endurance, and then balance. And I think I know balance is really important. And the reason balance is important is so we don't fall down. And so all four elements of fitness really matter. They matter when you're young and healthy. They matter when you're a middle-aged person or you're pregnant or you have a job, and they matter in retirement. Cardiovascular endurance, your heart and lungs always matter. Your musculoskeletal system, having strength makes you resilient, makes you less likely to be injured, as does mobility and flexibility. Being able to move through a broad range of motions always matters. And it's a good reminder that our shoulder, for example, was designed to go in all these directions. Too many people only move their shoulders forward, right? We lift up a little bit, we come out here. You should go through this big motion every day for your arms and for your legs. Your body was designed to move. Mobility matters, especially as you age. If you practice mobility, you will maintain mobility. And last but not least, the balance training, which is standing on one foot, hold on to an object if you need to at the start, and then standing on one foot, you add a little bit of advanced moves to up your game and challenge your balance. But all of this stuff matters. Your health, it's interesting how people may take their health for granted, and then they hear the words, "You have cancer," and then all they wish for is health. They would trade everything they own, everything they will ever own, to not have cancer. Cancer is a big deal and it's terrifying. So that moment, if you have been diagnosed and you can bring yourself back there to that instant where all you thought was, "I just want to be healthy. I don't want to die." And cancer, it's that death is terrifying, at least to me. So health matters, and the things you do today will help future you, no matter what he or she is facing. And so as far as coming back from chemo, coming back from weight loss, and some people have weight gain, it's just always got to be baby steps. I have tons of resources on Fitzness.com, little mini workout videos to follow along with, healthy recipes. There's all sorts of guidance. Utilize it. I've provided free resources for a reason. It's because I want people to have the information. I want you to be able to make progress without having money be a barrier between you and that success. For me, I did not have major burns from radiation. However, radiation has kind of turned my left chest and rib cage area and right up here, my clavicle, into kind of tough meat. So if you had overcooked your steak or chicken and you thought, "Gee, this is hard to cut through," that's what it feels like to me. I am 1 year, blah, 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 blah. I'm 15 months out of radiation and I still have tightness. I still have soreness from radiation, which I did not anticipate. I was told about the skin burning. I thought that would be the greatest threat. And what I ended up facing was this long-term tightness and discomfort. And so I work on that. I work on that with stretching, and the same thing with surgery. I just had a lumpectomy and they took out some lymph nodes. So that itself made my chest muscles tight, my shoulders tight, everything pulled forward. The second, those wounds healed, I had to work on starting to open up my chest. I had a minor surgery. If you are someone who's had a full mastectomy, stretching, mobility needs to be a high priority for you. And not only just stretching, going through this big range of motion, but then working on strength training your back. And then eventually, once you've brought your shoulders back and you've regained your posture, you also have to work your chest muscles. So I highly recommend physical therapy, physiotherapy, massage therapy, acupuncture. There's all these professionals out there designed to help you get through it. And if you don't have the financial resources for it, perhaps there's an organization near you that will support that. And if not, I mean, you could self-massage, you could buy some self-massage tools, you pay X amount of price up front and then you get to use it for years on end. I have this pillow massager thing I rely on every single night when I go to bed. I think I paid $30 for it. And it's been working for years for me. And that was a really good investment. And then the other thing is you could get a friend or a spouse, someone who cares about you to help rub those muscles, take whatever resources you have. But, health matters. And it mattered before my cancer diagnosis. The instant I got that diagnosis, even for me, the importance and the vitality of health became, just echoed so loud. It was all I wanted. And, now on the other side of it, thank goodness I'm on the other side of it. Health is still the most important thing in my world, not only for me, but for my family. And then of course for you guys. And again, my mission, my life's mission since 1989, when I started teaching fitness, as to help people live better and longer. And, I wouldn't go back and rehab cancer in order to be able to help people who have cancer. But, I would be remiss if I didn't use this experience and information I have to help other people through it. It's a tough battle, but it's doable. And that's the number one thing we all have to remember is, for the most of us, statistics show there will be a light at the end of the tunnel. You just have to utilize your best resources internally, your mental strength and your physical strength to get through it. Any questions?
Thank you so much, Fitz. It was like incredible.
I think her passion, for the fitness, I think that kept her going because she wanted to be there. She loved the cheering. She had to be there. She was already a star and she couldn't be anything less, right? Her goal was set. And more than even my children were at that age, 12, 13, 14. And same thing like you also. I didn't break down in front of them because I thought if I break down, then what will they do? I was a single mom. At least you have your husband. I
Yeah.
was a single mom of 3 kids. So I couldn't afford to break down in front of them at all. And I don't know, I never broke down. I don't know. Maybe some strength. I prayed for strength. I prayed for courage because I couldn't give up working also. I had to work.
Yeah.
And I told myself life is greater than cancer, right? I have to live my life. So
you have to be strong. And that's the other thing. I mean, I love my work, but like you, I had bills to pay. What was I going to do without my job, right? Money matters. And it's tough to fix that, but it's a reality for us, right? We have to work.
Yeah. Not only work plus travel. I'm also an avid traveler. Lopa knows that. So with a bandage around my chest, after 8 days after my mastectomy, I went on travel. So my doctor was so loud. He said, Vera, what are you doing? I said, I have to go. I can't cancel. I spent so much money on booking travel and all that. So I had to go. So I came back and then I did the 45 days of radiation. After radiation, stayed to workstation. I mean, I had no other way to go. From radiation, I had to go to workstation, right, in order to survive. So, I mean, you're such an inspiring thing. I mean, hugs for you.
Hugs back to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Uma ma'am. I think Bindu, you have a question for Fitz? Yes.
Yeah. Fitz, so proud of you. I mean, it was such a wonderful journey of yours to hear. So inspiring. So happy to know that. I mean, when we see somebody who has won the disease, so it's so good to see actually. Fitz, what do you feel? I mean, crying out at times, does it help?
Does it help? That's a good question. I don't know if it helped, but I couldn't help it. Does that make sense? So I was able to keep my stuff together, usually for my kids and strangers and so forth. But yeah, every single day I would cry. I couldn't not cry. I would sit in my car alone and cry, or I would sit in my bathroom alone and cry. And I mean, I guess it helped to get it out. I just couldn't stop it, but I was able to get my stuff together and always put on a, I guess I was performing, smile. People would say, how are you? And for me, if I would have told the truth of how things were going, I wouldn't have done so well emotionally. my business is for me to be a beacon of health and happiness, but the reality is the hardships and the fear, it was really tough. And I thought if I share that with other people, it would have made it even tougher on me. So I actually went through my whole treatment telling everybody I'm fine. All they saw are the pictures that you saw in that video. Just, they didn't even see the video of me talking about my hair coming out. It was just, I'm great. And then after the fact, I put all the gory details in the book. And so now it's interesting how the people that I circulated with during that time, they all reach out now and say, I had no idea. I had no idea you were so sick, or no idea this was happening, and so forth. And yeah, I don't know if the tears helped, but I couldn't stop them. They were just part of my
Yeah,
life.
because
On it.
I mean, it doesn't show us, portray us to be weak. I think sometimes if it comes out, it brings us more strength. So probably at times I feel crying is okay.
Yeah, you know what it was? And when I was a kid, my mom used to yell at me and tell me to stop crying. And I would say, my tears will dry. I'll be fine. You know, she was so worried about me crying. And I was like, crying's not a big deal. These tears will dry. And thankfully they have.
Best wishes.
Mhm.
Yeah. Any further questions for Fitz?
Yeah, doctor, I want to ask.
Yeah, so we have Anjali here. Anjali is a breast cancer survivor, Fitz, and an amazing woman from Mumbai. And she won many beauty awards and everything. And she just sailed her life in a different direction after the diagnosis. And so proud of Anjali.
Hello.
Yes, Anjali.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Yeah.
I'm proud of you. Heads off to you. Love you so much. You're too beautiful and always be proud of. No words to express.
Thank you. I love you back. I appreciate that. That's very sweet.
So sweet of you, Anjali.
Yeah.
Any further questions for Fitz?
Yes, I always appreciate, because she's kept her passion and she's kept her figure, 18-year-old figure, and she's exercising, she's swimming. I gave up swimming, unfortunately. Now it's very difficult for me to get back into it. But now I know, Fitz has done it. And she's done it in spite of all the odds. And she's shown the positive side of life, instead of, okay, maybe she cries, but that's a different thing. That's a very personal thing. Yeah, I think crying is also very good. It's an emotion, which you throw out, and that sharing and caring which you get from others in return. Somebody coming and hugging you. Okay, it's okay. Don't worry. You can cry. That also gives a lot of strength. It gives a lot of strength.
Yeah.
Like you throw it out, and half the fear is gone when you talk about it. I think that's what I felt.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you. And it's tough, but I'm still working on getting back into life. I finished chemo in May, so I'm 10 months out right now. But within the 10 months, I've done 3 obstacle course races, and I've learned how to surf. And now I'm like, okay, life is even more precious than I thought it was before. So now I'll do anything to go have some more adventure in my life. And the other thing that I didn't touch on, but I think is relevant for all of us is, the hardship of having our appearance change so drastically. Again, it was losing not only had my hair, but I lost my eyelashes. I was gray. My face went from really puffy to, when I lost weight, I got really gaunt, and my face was sunken in and wrinkly, and my curves were gone, and it was really hard to look in the mirror, and I know my value is far greater than my appearance, but it's tough to get through that. It's just tough to get through the changes, and it's depressing, and it's this is tough. This is tough, but there are things we could do to make it better. And fortunately, I've gained back, I think, 7-8 pounds of muscle so far, and I'm starting to get to being me again. It's taken a lot of effort, but definitely, I think we need to have special support system, a best friend, a parent, a child, a partner in some regard, anyone who will listen. And I think these online support groups really go a long way, because unless you've been through it, sometimes you just can't understand.
Absolutely, yeah, that's
Thank
true,
you.
Fitz. And we have a question from Ramya. Yes, Ramya.
Yeah, thank you, Lopat. I have a question. Fitz mentioned in between the call, if the person discontinued the
We
treatment.
can't hear you clear, Ramya. If you could be a little
Uh,
louder, please. Yeah.
if person discontinues the chemo, what you advise? Though Fitz just wanted to hear from you. Can
Well,
we discontinue the chemo?
so here's the deal. I'm not a doctor, so my yeah, I'm not the person to answer that question. I know that, my suffering was so great, and when I talked about discontinuing treatment, that was only because my suffering was so great. If the chemo wasn't working, I might, and there wasn't any hope, then perhaps I would have decided to stop and enjoy whatever days feeling as good as I could. But if you've got chemo that's still working, keep going with it. I mean, these science is magnificent, and the things they're coming out with every day to make progress, it's miraculous. So definitely, if your doctor thinks chemo is the right plan for you, and you can, and they can help you, then chemo. I didn't like it, but I love it.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
That's fine.
totally agree with you, Fitz. So, Ramya, chemo, definitely we need to finish the cycles because it's very important for any cancer cell, like anywhere in our bloodstream or somewhere sitting somewhere else in our body, that chemo can take care of it. So, I would definitely recommend that we need to finish the cycle and also follow up with the targeted treatment too, if it's possible. But in case if the oncologist tells you that we are on stage 4 and it has already metastasized and only hope is hospice care and or maintenance chemo is another thing that we do. But in case if we do not see any hope, as Pete's mentioned, and then it's kind of like then it makes sense as a decision from the family that okay, we will not do chemo anymore. But in case if there is hope, then we have to definitely, it's very tough, but we have, that's why we have the stories, we have Fit story, we have so many internally, like on our website we have posted the stories of our survivors who have gone through this and they have sailed through this, and that's when the support group comes to the rescue too, because discussing the problems with each other, what are the ailments, what are the side effects, and how to address them. And if you know someone going through, you can reach out to me. We have a very private WhatsApp support group, and we all function as a family there. And yeah, definitely to be there for each other for sure. Yeah, I hope.
Thank you, Lopa. And where is the WhatsApp group? Is there in the
So
chat box, the
no,
number?
it is, we have separate BCH, separate WhatsApp groups, and this is a separate one, only support group. So that's only for the patients and their families who are going through cancer. So that is what we have as a separate group. So if you would like to just reach out to me, I will add the person to the group or the immediate family member.
That's great. Thank you, Lopa and Fitz. Also, because being a caregiver, it was difficult for me to take up the decision of continuing or discontinuing. But your message of both of you added some value for my decision. Thank you so much for that support.
Most
And it's
welcome.
really inspirative, Fitz messages. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting. I chose what I decided was the path of least regret. And so when a doctor said for radiation, there were some decisions. She said, well, we could do whole breast and then we could add this booster zaps in your armpit or not, and I just said, do it all. For me, I said, do it all, because if this thing came back 3 years later and I hadn't accepted that radiation, I might have thought, oh, that's the reason why. So I went full force. Whatever they recommended, I said, oh, hammer me with it. Just get it over with, because I don't ever want to do breast cancer ever again. And yeah, and so as far as regrets go, I don't think I'll have any. Even if it does come back, I'll know that I did the best that was offered to me, and that means a lot.
Very true.
Thank you, Fitz.
Of course.
Yeah. All right.
Ma'am,
So
Faith in
yes.
your doctor, you have to have faith also.
Yes.
ma'am, can you recommend some basic exercises for? I mean, if you can make a small video or something like that.
Oh, I have plenty of videos. I do. That's
Okay.
what I'm saying. So if you go, I'm going to put
Okay.
it here in the comment section, but it's on my name. It's fitzness.com. And then if you go to my Fitzness on YouTube, there's a
Okay.
list, a
So
workout.
that would be general, or that would be more for specific for this.
So you'll be able to see which ones are gentle. So
Okay.
there's a variety of just stretches with bands. And for example, I'm going to back up and show you this because these are my favorite. Whether you have a resistance band or a belt or a rope, this is just an Apple phone charging cord, and everybody has these, right? Excuse me. But these are my favorite stretches. You just get something along, hold on to it, and then you bring it up and back. And it's this motion right here. Woo, that really stretches out your chest. And as you come forward, arch the back, you can go around. I got that thing around my neck. But yeah, forward and back, up and over. The reality is our body was meant to move in all sorts of ways, right? The more you bend, the more you open up, the more flexible you'll be. But we sit in a chair straight forward. We walk straight forward. Even if we run, we're straight forward. We don't do a lot of twisting and bending. And so all of this is going to make a big difference. And especially anything that brings your arms behind your back for someone who's had mastectomy of any level and radiation, this open up motion is going to be super good for your pecs, your shoulders, your serratus. So yeah, so these are my favorite. But on fitzness.com, there's a box that says workout videos. Go right there and you'll see some of them are plyometric. We're jumping and you might go, well, that's a little above me. Don't do those. Do the exercises that are low level, simple, and yeah, I would love for you to use them. They'll definitely help you jump back into shape.
Okay.
That's wonderful, Fitz. Thank you so much. I think it's already 11:13. So if we do not have any further questions, then we can close the session. So I don't see any hands raised, right? So, all right. Okay, that's perfect. So thank you so much, Fitz. I can't even explain what it means, your words, and this will be, I mean, your video, this particular session will be inspiration for so many women, women, men, and everyone fighting cancer, any type of cancer, that never to give up. And you are truly a motivation for everyone. And thank you for what you're doing for all of us, for the community who are fighting cancer. And that's, I mean, we are so grateful to you for your time, for your insights, for your expertise. And definitely, we would request everyone to go through fitness.com and pick the exercises that you think would be, compatible for your situation, so that you can take the expertise of Fitz to your network. I think that's the whole purpose, so that we spread out, and I'm sure that's the mission and the vision of Fitz too, and that's your passion, which is incredible. I mean, the way you sailed through the process. Thank you so much. And I would also like to thank each and everyone here who came for the session, and who have also emailed, signed up for this today's webinar. And I'm going to send the YouTube video to each of you, whoever signed up, and we'll also post it on our YouTube Breast Cancer Hub YouTube channel. Please subscribe so that you can catch up with all our webinars and the sessions available we have done so far. So thank you so much. Saying that, I would like to sign off today on behalf of Breast Cancer Hub, and giving a big round of applause to Fitz for being here with us. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Thank
Bye.
you, Lopa. Thank you, Fitz.
Thank you.
Bye.
Ma'am.
See you
You are
soon in Bangalore
Thank you.
yes.
on our
Bye.
racing track. See you on our racing track.
Yeah.
Bye, Opaji. Bye, Lopaji.
Bye, Anjali. Bye,
Thank
Ramya.
you, everyone. Bye, Roy.
Bye,
Bye, Fitz.
Anjali.
Bye.
Bye, Ramya. Go on with your treatment. Don't give up.
Thank you so much, Bye.
You have done it and you will do it. That's it.
Thank you for
You are
that. Sweet.
experienced, right? You have experience. So now you will also get the experience and then you become experienced. So don't give up.
I agree. I'm blessed to hear that. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Mama. That's so wonderful of you. You are the
Thank you.
pillar of Breast Cancer Hub Support Group. Anjali is also
You
here.
are the
So
main pillar. You are the main pillar. We are just substitute.
Yes, yes, Lokaji, you are the king.
no. Thank
Thank
you
God
you.
so
bless you.
much. Thank you. Bye.
Night.
Take care.
Good night. Yeah. Thank you. See you again.
See you.
Little
Bye.